In the last section, we got a quick overview of how this course is organized, and we ended up saying that we'll first do a deep dive into the Dart language itself, and then eventually shift over to studying Flutter. Before we move on to our first application, I want to give you a quick overview of Dart itself, so that you have some more context on the language. So let's take a look at a diagram that's going to summarize a few important concepts about Dart. So in this diagram, we're going to take a look at 4 different important features of Dart. First off, Dart is an object-oriented programming language. With an object-oriented language, we spend a lot of time thinking about how to model logic in our application using objects. In Dart, objects are referred to as classes. If you've never worked with an object-oriented programming language before, or don't know what the term class refers to, that's completely okay. We're going to do a deep dive on object-oriented programming inside this course. Second, Dart is a statically typed language, similar to C++, C#, or Java. For reference, languages like, say, JavaScript or Ruby are examples of dynamically typed languages. We will, of course, discuss static typing quite a bit throughout this course, but for now, just imagine that in Dart, we have to make sure that any given variable can only contain data of a single type, like, say, an integer or a string. If you've never worked with a statically typed language before, or if you feel a little bit intimidated by types, I really recommend you not worry one bit. The type system in Dart is extremely flexible for beginners. Third, Dart has a C-style syntax. So in general, it's going to look very similar to C, C#, or JavaScript, or even Java. You will probably not be seeing a lot of strange symbols inside your code. Most of the code that you and I are going to write is going to look quite legible, in my personal opinion. Finally, Dart has multiple runtime environments. That means to say that we can somehow execute Dart code in the browser, from our command line, or with mobile apps. When ran in the browser, Dart first gets transpiled into plain JavaScript code, and we will see a good example of this in one of the apps that we're going to work on later in the course. When ran from the command line as a standalone program, Dart is executed in something called the Dart VM, or the Dart virtual machine. Finally, on a mobile device, Dart is first compiled into machine code. So your mobile device doesn't ever touch a snippet of pure Dart, it works directly with machine code. Okay, so in this section, we got a very high-level view on a couple of different aspects of Dart. Let's now continue in the next section and start working on our first tiny little application.